Come join Melissa and her guests on the Chats from the Blog Cabin podcast. From North Carolina, this podcast will have you feeling like you've known these folks for years. Listen in as they chat about life, culture, current events, and more, all with a special Southern flair. Curl up with your favorite beverage and get ready to be entertained. Tune in now for a unique experience that's fun and insightful.
Hey y'all, let me ask you a question. What if the chaos in your mind isn't something you have to fight, but something you can learn to let settle? In today's episode, we're talking about anxiety, overwhelm, and the emotional glitter storms that so many teens face with educator and mindfulness advocate Stefanie, who is the author of Let the Glitter Settle. So you see where I found the glitter storms. So Stefanie, welcome to the show. And first of all, I will say that you say this is for teens, but I think this book is for anybody that is struggling, because I found a lot of great suggestions in this book. So tell us about yourself before we start talking about your book.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad that you said that, because when I wrote this, it was for teens, but I think it does reach all different levels. So I'm a middle school teacher, hence writing a book for teens. And I really I struggled in middle school. Like, I was the kid who loved school all through elementary school. You know, like, I loved the smell of fresh books. Like, I loved the organized materials. I loved our projects and homework. And then, like, middle school happened for me, and it just totally shifted. And I thought, you know, when I'm a teacher, I'm going to change that for my students. And I came in and I was like, I'm just going to love on them so hard. And I'm just going to be the kindest, warmest, understanding teacher. And then it's all going to be fine. And that wasn't the case. And I realized that it wasn't just about the teacher. It's also about having tools for coping and for being able to regulate our emotions and understand them. And so I knew I had to do something more. And that was kind of how I got into this. I started getting into mindfulness and trauma-informed practices. And I was like, let me just get as many strategies as I can so I can best support my kids.
Yeah, let's touch on that point, because there's something about middle school years that you have a perfect, not a perfect child, but a sweet, angelic child, and all of a sudden they become like the alternate universe. Just like, where did you come from? I had 3 girls. So can you imagine, hormones are raging. They say girls are harder than boys when they're going through the teenage years, but I can't even imagine. Mindfulness wasn't around when my girls were like, I was like, yes, you could do this, but it was like considered woo-woo.
Yep.
So why is it more of an accepted practice? And why is it just the teenage years? The middle school years, it just seems like they're just thrown at stuff.
Yeah. So fortunately, there's actually a lot more research out now about mindfulness. It's become super well known. Jon Kabat-Zinn made it really popular in the 70s for pain management. So that was actually how it got brought kind of into the United States. And then, mindfulness-based stress reduction became really popular, and then it started kind of finding its way into schools. So Mindful Schools is a nonprofit. There's lots of nonprofits now that are teaching mindfulness and making it more available for kids, which I think is an incredible opportunity, because, like you said, it's this huge time of transition when you are in middle school. And the kids also, they feel it. They're not up from down, and many of us, when we think back to what our time was like, it was a struggle, and things are, I think, even more different today. There's so many more challenges that they face, so many different things that they face, especially with technology and social media and all of that.
Yeah, social media for one, because social media was not even around. Heck, the internet wasn't even around when I was growing up. So let's talk about what mindfulness is, because I know a lot of people think it's all this woo stuff, it's all this new age stuff. It's not really something that we all can do, but it is something we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment with kindness and curiosity, right? And so when we think about it in that way, mindfulness is about paying attention, right? We're always paying attention to something, but mindfulness is about paying attention to what's happening right here and now, and to do that in a way that's non-judgmental. And the easiest way to think about something that's non-judgmental, because that can be tricky, like, am I judging it? I don't know, is kindness and curiosity. Right? I'm going to treat this moment with kindness and curiosity. So I'm really curious about what's happening right now. I'm really curious about what it is that I'm feeling. Like, how is this moment landing on me? So when we think about mindfulness as paying attention, there's nothing really woo-woo about that. Yeah. It's just more about self-awareness and about being fully present in what's happening in our lives.
Now, one of the things that you said in the book is mindfulness is not connected to any type of religion. A lot of people think that you have to be a certain type of religion to practice mindfulness. And I love how you point that out in the book.
Yeah, thank you. So it's the same thing like art and music, right? We incorporate that into all different types of religions, and meditation can be like that too, right? And mindfulness in itself doesn't even have to be a meditation, right? You can be mindful, you can be fully present and aware without bringing it into a meditative state.
So let's talk about, for instance, I've been doing this mindfulness series. So let's talk about some things that we can be mindful of, that we can just let us be present in the moment instead of what we're doing next week or what happened yesterday. So many times we're replaying all these scenarios in our brain, and then our brain can't shut off, and then we can't go because our brain is totally like, our cortisol levels are through the roof.
Yes. Yeah. So I like to think about it as anchors, right? So an anchor on a boat likes to hold it into place. And so a mindfulness anchor is going to help us to stay present in the moment. We can keep going back to that anchor to help us to stay present in the moment. So one of those anchors could be sound. So I love using sound as an anchor because no matter where you are, even when it's really quiet, there's some type of sound. There's something that we can hear. So using our senses can be a great anchor to that moment. And so if you're using sound, you could use sounds that are far away, listen to what's farther away, maybe outside of the space you're in, sounds that are within the room that you're in, and then even seeing if you can notice sounds within your own body. And so that can be a great practice to help ground you and to get right here, right now.
So how do we get started with mindfulness?
So there's so many different ways to get started. If you want, we can do a practice right now.
Go right ahead.
All right, so let's do the sound one because that's the one we just talked about. So if you're listening in, you can, wherever you are, sitting comfortably. You don't have to sit in any particular way, but whatever makes you feel comfortable, but also alert, right? Because the goal is not quite to fall asleep. We still want to be paying attention. Mm-hmm. And so finding that comfortable posture, and then maybe noticing your body, maybe dropping your shoulders, noticing how you're sitting. And then we'll just take our hearing and our listening and see if you can listen to sounds that are outside of the space that you're in, maybe outside the room or outside of your home. And we'll just take about 20 quiet seconds here. Then we can bring our listening in a little more. Maybe notice the sounds you can hear that are in your room. And then bringing in a little more, can you notice any sounds that are in your own body? Wonderful. So as we're doing that practice, you might have noticed those different sounds. You may have noticed a sound and then maybe that took you on a little train of thought, right? That sound was like, oh, it's a car. It made me think about my car. Did I fill up my tank? I can't remember. And then hopefully you listen to another sound and then that brought you just back to that moment. So when we listen to those sounds, if we can listen to the sound and instead of naming it like car, can we name it what the sound is like? It's like buzzing or humming or rumbling. Right? If we give it a name, sometimes that helps it so we don't give it a story. But that's one example of getting present.
I love that because basically you're in mindfulness is basically like you're on a runaway train with your mind. And then all of a sudden you have to stop because the crosswalks are the things down or there's something in the way that's blocking it. So you just kind of have to stop and be aware of what's around you. And I love that because, our minds are racing all the time, that we need that time to just sit and just be, even if it's only 5 minutes a day. I mean, because a lot of people think that they have to have long extended periods of time to do mindfulness exercises.
Yeah. And it can be stuff you incorporate into your everyday life. Like when you're washing dishes, can you mindfully wash your dishes? Like I don't enjoy washing my dishes, but sometimes when I do it mindfully and I really pay attention to it and I think about the detail that's on this dish and, where it came from, and I'm like scrubbing each corner, and then I can start to feel gratitude that, gosh, I have these beautiful plates that I use every day. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't become, it can change. It doesn't have to. Sometimes it's still annoying, right? But it can change how we feel about it. And it also helps us to be really present. I'm noticing the water on my hands. I'm noticing the soap, right? Getting really present with the thing that you're doing. I'm also a lot less likely when that happens to drop a dish because I'm fully present with it.
And you're a lot less likely to be set off by somebody coming in and talking to you while you're doing your dishes.
Right.
Because because, if you have kids or even if you have a husband or a significant other or whatever, or a wife, and somebody comes in and you're like trying to practice this and you're like, oh, leave me alone. You know how we just get really, the ones we love is the ones we bite their heads off more often than not. So that allows us to come in a better relationship with people too, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And mindfulness can be really supportive in how we communicate. We can even practice mindfulness in how we are communicating, noticing like, oh, that thing they said, I can feel the anger rising up. So now I have a choice. Am I going to respond with that anger? Am I going to take a breath first? Right. The more that we're paying attention, the more in control we really are. And the more that we're in control, the more that we're really living our own life, the more that we're in charge of the experiences that we're having and present with them.
That is so true. We need to take a brief commercial break, but we'll be right back.
When cancer crashed into my life, it tried to take everything. My health, my career, even my joy. Hands-free! Yeah! But I refused to let it. Instead, I discovered something powerful. That laughter and hope and small moments of joy could be just as powerful as any prescription. I've worn many hats: entrepreneur, consultant, speaker, and most importantly, mom. But the role I never expected? Cancer thriver. And I realized that my story isn't just mine, it's something that others needed too. My book, Finding Hope and Joy in Cancer, is part survival guide, part pep talk, and yes, even part comedy special for your soul. It's raw, it's real, it's filled with wisdom and stories and laughs that helped carry me through treatment and beyond. Over the years, I've built companies and communities, but this mission is different. It's about building resilience, one story at a time. My mission is simple. Hope, it's not optional. It's essential. And joy, it's waiting for you, even in the hardest chapters of your life. I'm Amanda Gunville, speaker, author, and cancer thriver. And I'm here to talk about humor, resilience, and what it really takes to find joy when life feels impossible.
And we are back with Stefanie, who wrote Let the Glitter Settle, which I love the fact that you used the word glitter. Did you plan on using that word? What was the reasoning behind the glitter? I love that, and I love the glitter jar, but why did you decide to use glitter?
So when I teach mindfulness with my students, that's one of the first ways I bring it up is by the glitter jar, because it's a great tool to use in the calm down area or if you have like a Zen den, but it's also a great analogy because that jar is like our mind and the glitter can be like our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and things can happen that shake our jar, right? Like we're running late for work, we sit in traffic, we spill a coffee, we forgot our homework, right? Things will shake our jar. And when that jar's shaking, all that glitter is swirling around. And it's really hard to see clearly when that glitter is moving around. It's pretty, but it's a sparkly mess. And so when we take a moment to practice mindfulness, when we take a breath, when we do a regulation strategy, we can let that glitter settle to the bottom. And when it settles, it's still there. We might still have some of those feelings, but we can see more clearly. We can make good choices. And I also bring that back a little bit to neuroscience too, right? So that's actually what's happening in our brains. We're giving ourselves a space to be in control.
I love that. What made you decide to write this book?
So I've been teaching mindfulness for a long time, and I was looking for more books for teens to bring into the classroom. And I couldn't really find that many. There's just a handful that's out there. And I wanted to have something for my students to use. And so I started writing this book for my students. And then as I'm writing the book for them, I'm realizing, my gosh, my kids are lucky because this is rare. Like not every school has it. So every 7th grader gets to learn about mindfulness. So I started thinking about a broader audience. So it became this small like project that was going to be just for my students. And then it ended up being like a full-fledged, like this is a book that I'm going to publish and put out there in the world.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have follow-up books coming out about mindfulness, like mindfulness for like little kids, because little kids need to when you get them early enough,
Yeah.
that when by the time they're teenage years, they'll know how to regulate their emotions. They'll know what they're feeling. They'll know how to do strategies to be able to calm themselves down, because kids are so stressed out nowadays.
Yeah.
And so children, and then adults too. And maybe in a book about adults teaching or parenting with mindfulness with their kids, and in their kids teaching them mindfulness as well. It's something that parents and kids can do together, because I think that's important.
Yes, I love it. You've got me busy. I've got all new ideas now. Yeah, so the next book I'm doing is actually, it's a picture book, and I'm going to be doing it alongside one of the students. I do private mindfulness coaching, and so one of the students that I've been working with since she was really little, and we're going to be working on it together. So she'll be doing some of the illustrations. So I can't wait for that one to come out. That's going to be an extra special moment.
Oh, wow. When do you think that will come out?
I'm hoping to be working on it this summer, so it'll likely be in some point in 2027.
Okay, so put me on your calendar when it comes out. I want you back on, because I definitely want to do that one as well, because I think it's so important nowadays. We need these strategies, because people are so quick to rage and regret now. And they just let their emotions get a hold of them. All these road rages, all these people that are just like, I don't like what you're saying to me, and they just talk to a total stranger like they're a piece of something on the bottom of their shoe. I mean, really, common decency is no longer there anymore.
Yeah, and being able to hold all of our different emotions and the range of them, and to not just walk away from it or to explode in those moments, but to be able to hold it and to respond instead of react. Yeah, for sure.
So are you ready to read part of your book?
Yes. Okay. So this is from chapter 4, Why Mindfulness. So in 2016, I got a pretty severe concussion and was out of school for 4 months. I love my job. I mean, I don't just like teaching, I love it. I love my students, the topics I teach, the amazing people I work with, all of it. It fills my cup and gives me great joy. So to be out of work for so long was challenging. I couldn't do much of anything during that time. For the first month, I just slept, ate, went to a doctor appointment, and sat in the dark. I had a constant migraine and felt like someone had drained my battery. One day, I was lying in bed, agonizing pain from the injury to my whole body, as well as the migraine. I couldn't help but feel sorry for myself. It was a beautiful autumn day, and all I wanted to do was be outside, enjoying the leaves, or go pick apples or pumpkins. But instead, I was in my bed and hurting. I was frustrated and started to cry, feeling my headache tighten around me. As I was wrapped up in my little pity party, I thought of my students and what I teach them about mindfulness. I thought, what would I say to my students if they were experiencing this? As I paused and let that soak in, I realized that I was experiencing a little FOMO, fear of missing out. I was so worried about what was happening outside of my little room that I forgot to pay attention to the experience I was having in the moment. I finally paused to take a breath and noticed my experience. Yes, it was unpleasant, but instead of pushing away the feelings and pain, I embraced them. I welcomed them in and looked at what was there. I allowed each wave of pain to move through me. I noticed where I could feel it exactly in my body. Slowly, the heavy weight of the pain lifted. It was still there, but I no longer felt trapped by it. I realized that I was still living my life at that moment, even if it wasn't outside in the crisp fall air. I still had this moment, and I could choose to be present with it, or I could choose to be lost in longing for something that wasn't mine to experience at the time. Mindfulness can be supportive in times of great joy, love, or happiness. It isn't only helpful when you're struggling, but it can help you to be more present with the pleasant experiences that you are experiencing. The day of my sister's wedding was so beautiful and so full of love, joy, excitement, and busyness. I wanted to fully experience each moment of laughter and bliss. Throughout the evening, I would stop and notice my feet on the ground and take a full look around, soaking in the smiling faces and the love and laughter that could be seen and felt in the room. Mindfulness has helped me to slow down and be fully present to appreciate and notice and feel the good when it arises.
I love that. Feel the good when it arises, because most of the time, whenever we experience something awesome or good or a milestone or anything, we're always looking at the next thing. We're not sitting there and enjoying that feeling of accomplishment because we're so
Mhm.
stretched on trying to figure out what we're doing next.
Yeah, we're so busy about what's the next thing that's going to happen. We're like, oh, this is good. Okay, but what's happening in the next 5 minutes? And Dr. Rick Hansen talks about the concept of savoring the good. So when that good thing happens, what we're actually doing is rewiring our brain, right? We're fully present with it. We're helping to bring that awareness, and we're strengthening those neural pathways so that we start to see the good and notice those good things more often. So it's like the opposite of toxic positivity, right? It's like the world is still on fire, but right now in this moment, this great thing is happening.
And plus, too, it changes our perspective on things when we start looking at mindfulness. We're less likely to go to the negative. Like take, for instance, what's going on with my dog right now. You know, I have moments where I'm like in the negative, like, oh, this may be my, like yesterday I was in my feelings. This may be my last Mother's Day with her, you know, because I've had her since she was 15. But then I thought, no, I can't think like that. Let me be present with her right now and enjoying her right now instead of thinking about something that's happening later on down the line.
That's a perfect example. Yeah, let me enjoy this and be present with her right here.
Yeah, and also too with the fur babies, we can learn a lot from them because they're present. They could care less. All they care about is when they're going to eat.
Yep,
if they got water. Somebody wants to pet them when they want attention, and when they have to go out to the bathroom. And they're present every time they're with us. They'll watch you when you're walking around the house. They'll stare at you. But then you look and you go, wow, if only I could be as present as they are in this moment.
Yes, it's funny. There's actually like a little cartoon, and it's a person walking in a park and the dog, and it shows like what the dog is seeing. The dog is seeing everything that is in the picture, right? The sun, the trees, the park, and the person in their mind, it's like all the things that they're thinking about. But isn't that so true? The dog is fully present. Our pups, our animals are great teachers for us about what it means to be right here, right now.
Yeah. So why did you get into mindfulness? You already said your middle school years were horrible. Is that the reason why you got into mindfulness? Or
so mindfulness came to me a little bit later, actually. So I had started practicing yoga, and I was going through some really difficult things in life. And so for myself, to take care of myself, I was practicing yoga and was starting to learn about some mindfulness practices through yoga. And I was like, gosh, I noticed that my students were so stressed. And I was like, I wonder, could this help them? So as I was learning a little bit, I was like, oh, let me dabble and bring it into them. And I realized if I was going to be a really good mindfulness teacher, I needed to start practicing for myself. And I needed to become more educated and to learn more. So then I started getting more training. So I got a number of mindfulness certifications, then I got a number of yoga certifications, and all for kids so that I could bring that back into the classroom. And I noticed as I started to bring it in, I was only doing it like right before a test, or like when I knew that they were stressed. And then I thought, gosh, this feels like it's more reactive. Like I'm only doing this when I think they really need it. But is that really the best way to do this? So then I started thinking, can I do this like every day? Like if we do a small practice every day, wouldn't it be more beneficial? Because now it's almost like practicing for that fire drill, right? Like I know how to help myself to find center and to feel grounded and in a place where I'm regulated. So when that emergency happens, like I know what to do. This is just natural to me. So it's not foreign. It's not hard to do. I can naturally slip into this and to be aware and present. And so that's kind of how the evolution of it. And now I get to teach 7th grade, and all the 7th graders take the class I teach. So we all get a 20-minute like mindfulness mini lesson before we move into our regular lesson. So
I love that. I love that. What great tools you're using to equip. And have you had, well, you said you're already working with a former private student for mindfulness on a book with her, but have they ever come back and said, oh my gosh, you've made such a big difference in my life because of how you taught me how to regulate my emotions, one, be present in the moment and not stress over everything.
Yes. And what's really cool is when they come back and they talk to you, and when they're adults, they come back when they're in high school, that's cool too. And they're going to come back at a different point. But anytime that a student comes back and tells you they remember something that they learned, and then that they still use it, like that is like the biggest gift to a teacher. Like you're like, like it matters, because there are times when it's hard. You know, I teach middle school. So some days they're like, yes, let's do it. And other days they're like eye rolling. They don't want to do it. They're not feeling it that day. They used to give me a hard time about it. And then when you get those emails back, you're like, oh, this is why. I've had students who've come back and they're working in their careers and they're like, I have coworkers who are really struggling, and I use a lot of the practices that we have, or when they're in college and they're using those practices. I've had kids come back and tell me how they teach their parents or their family members. So those are the most, that's how I know, okay, I'm doing the job I'm supposed to do. This is it.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned earlier about certifications and mindfulness. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about getting that? Because a lot of people are like, oh, great, here comes another certification, because you have life coaches all over the place now. You have, life coaches or personal development coaches and anything else, people that can just slap a label on stuff. But this is legit.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. I did a great training through Mindful Schools, which doesn't exist anymore. But there are other great nonprofits. I also have certifications through Little Flower Yoga and Mindfulness. I highly recommend them as well. That's a great program. It's wonderful professional development, and it's created for people who are in the classroom. And then there's another one that I haven't done, but I know a lot of people who've gone through that one, and it's called Breathe for Change. And that one also includes it's trauma sensitive practices, it's mindfulness, it's yoga, it's SEL. So it's kind of all of it combined. So there are some really great programs and trainings out there.
So how long are the trainings? Are you constantly learning more and more things? Like, it's not like one and done. You have to, of course, there's probably new courses or new approaches and everything else that come about, almost like a continuing ed as a teacher too, that you have to take all these classes to give up your certification.
Yeah. So those trainings are usually about a year long. And then after that, there's plenty of places to go to get more, to fill in, like you said, CEUs. I offer a lot of support on my website. I do a lot of trainings also. So I'm always happy to share workshops and things and share resources. But there are plenty of other places to keep going so that you can continue to get educated and have all the resources that you need.
Yeah, and you mentioned your website, so I just threw it up on the screen. That way people can know what your website is, because I think a lot of people are searching for this. They're searching for something that's going to make them feel better, because right now the state of the world it's not so great, and people need to realize to appreciate the little things. The like you talked about the sound earlier, and how you can just sit in the sound and listen, or even for that matter, walking outside and barefoot, and just grounding. And, when is the last time you did that? Because once we get older, we don't walk around barefoot. Kids walk around barefoot all day long. And then all of a sudden we have to cover ourselves up. We have to protect ourselves from the sun, but we seem to think about all the things that can go wrong instead of all the things that are going right for us at the moment.
Yes, I love that. Yep. So they're practicing those moments of noticing the good when they happen and staying focused with it. My website has on it some coloring pages, and that's another great practice for de-stressing. I know we often think about coloring for little kids, but that's great to do even as an adult. I doodle sometimes when I'm on a work call or something, and so coloring can be a great way to help you to stay present and very regulating. There's also recipes for how to make a glitter jar. So if you want to make a glitter jar, there's a recipe on there, and I'm always adding new things. Yep, there it is. It's the only recipe card I'll ever give out because I am not a cook. So that I just want to keep people alive. So that's the best recipe I could share.
Yeah. But you know what? That's also, your limitations too. And then you learn through mindfulness that maybe, okay, I'm not a great cook, but I can make this kind of recipe, or I can do this. Instead of what you can't do, you focus on what you can do. And I think a lot of people are so bogged down in the negative of things that they're supposed to do or things they have to do, that they don't get to do what they want to do. And they're so bogged down about all the negative and what's going wrong in their life, instead of that little, maybe a raindrop. Like, I know farmers here in North Carolina, we're so thankful that we had rain the last 2 weeks, because we are in a serious drought. So for somebody, they're like, oh man, it's raining. But I looked at it and say, it's raining. The farmers are happy.
Yeah. It's all about that perspective, right? It's all about that perspective. Like when that little excerpt I read about that concussion, that really, it was devastating to me. But realizing that we sometimes do this thing where we think about what our life should look like, what it should be. Like a good day looks like no rain and only sun. And so when we have all those shoulds, we're not allowing what is to be present, and we're not allowing all the good from what is to be there for us to see. So having that rain, maybe that's not what we think it should look like. That's not what a good day looks like. But what can that nice rainy day be like? How can we enjoy a rainy day?
Yeah. And when's the last time that you actually walked outside as an adult and just walked in the rain? Like kids love the rain. It's almost like mindfulness is almost to the point that you become a little kid again, and you forget about your cares for just a few minutes to just relive your childhood and doing the little things that, at the time we didn't know about what was going on in the world. We didn't know all these problems, the bills or anything else. We just knew that we were present. And mindfulness is almost like you're becoming childlike for just a few moments.
I love it. And it's also about that curiosity, right? Like children are naturally curious. They want to know about everything. They want to explore. They want to see, they want to do. And then we become adults and like, we kind of feel like we already know everything and we already have a judgment about that. Like it's either good or it's bad, or like, we have this idea about what it already is. So it's about coming to things with that childlike wonder and that sense of curiosity.
Yeah. So how can they regulate their emotions? Because I know a lot of the mindfulness, what you did for the teens, is regulating their emotions, because teenagers, they either have peer pressure that they have to bend to, social media, you have all these trolls hiding behind keyboards. I mean, and even at school, well, when they're not doing well in school and maybe their friend got an A on a paper and they got an F, even though they tried their very darndest doing it. And plus, if you have throwing in learning disabilities, because there's ADHD, there's ADD, there's dyslexia, there's all these other learning disabilities that come into play. So how can you teach the kids to regulate their emotions?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is starting to notice them, right? When we start to pay attention to the emotions as they're arising, what's actually happening is when we have those big emotions, right? If this is like a handy model of the brain, we call it like flipping our lid, right? Like a big emotion takes over, and this is our amygdala, right? Our brain doesn't actually flip open, but our amygdala is activated, right? Our fight, flight, or freeze. And so when that's activated, that is sending cortisol through our body, right? Our breathing is faster, our heart rate is faster. It's actually our digestion slows down. So when we're in that state, we can tell sometimes. So we have to pay attention. So part of that is teaching our kids to pay attention. What does it feel like when I'm angry? What does anger feel like in my body? So we can notice that, ooh, I can feel the heat rise through my body. I know I'm getting angry. As soon as we do that, as soon as we're like, I feel this and I know that means I'm getting angry, or I'm angry, or I'm mad, or I'm sad. Now we're in our prefrontal cortex. So that would be this part of the brain if this was our brain. Right? So the prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that helps us to make good choices. This is the part of our brain that does not get fully developed until about 25, 26. Right? Our amygdala, that's online the minute we're born. We know babies cry when they need something, right? And then we do the regulation for them. Right? Baby cries, and what do? We hold them and we rock them and we talk gently to them. So we're giving them our regulation. Right? We are in a calm state place, and now we're sharing that with the baby. Kids are like that. Now we're not going to pick up like a 5-year-old and like rock them every time, right? And we're definitely not going to do that with a teenager, but we're going to share our calm with them. We're going to share our regulated state with them, because we are wired to be together. So we pick up on each other's emotional states. So if I'm in that calm, regulated state, and now I'm talking with a kid they're escalated, now I'm sharing my calm with them. Right? And I might not correct first, right? They're angry. I'm going to let them be angry. And then I'm going to help them to regulate, to calm down. We'll take deep breaths first. We'll notice our emotions. We'll name them. We might, tighten our fists and let them go, right? We might do some tense and release. We might do movement, but we'll do something first before we move on. So first step in helping our kids to become regulated is that co-regulation. So as adults, this is the hardest thing, because we're also wired to be together too. So when we see other people escalated, that impacts our nervous system. So as the adult in space, we have to be able to check in. Am I in a space to be able to navigate this, right? Can I get myself in a regulated state? And now I can share my regulation with that child. And then teaching them about all that self-awareness. I have some activities in the book too, where we draw out what anger feels like in our body. We draw out stress. That's one of my favorite things to do with my class, because we can really think out, what does this feel like? So when it comes up, I know. And then I'm able to, okay, I'm angry. And now I'm going to make a choice. I'm angry. Am I going to hit my sister, or am I going to take a breath? Right? Because as soon as we kind of intercept it, we stop it from being reactive. And now we're in a response.
I love that. Am I going to hit my sister or take a breath? Take a breath. Honestly, would be better for you, because if you hit your sister, you'll get in trouble, and then your anger is going to be triggered all over again. And it's like a roller coaster, like a boulder going down the landslide. You have one little rock, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, and then you're just breaking down and crying. Whereas if you focus on, okay, I'm angry, I'm going to do some things, some tools, and I'm going to release the anger. Because a lot of people go in prayer with that too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So I had a question. Now I forgot the question now. You were talking about regulating your emotions and everything and teaching your kids. What has been the response from the parents? Because I think that's important when the hearing about, she taught us about mindfulness today. We have a 20-minute lesson every day about mindfulness. And they're like, I'm paying her salary to teach her about mindfulness, because I was a teacher too. So I know some of the parents that will come at you with that particular comment, like, what am I paying your salary for if you're not teaching them things that they're going to make them succeed in the world, not realizing that mindfulness is going to make them succeed in the world?
That's a great question. And I love that you use the word succeed in the world, because the class I teach is actually called Skills for Success. So the whole class and everything that I teach in it is all about skills that kids need in order to be successful right now as middle schoolers, but also in the future. So part of that is being able to regulate our emotions. Part of that is being able to be present. And so most of the feedback I've gotten from parents has been very wildly popular. I mean, they come in for back to school night, so they get to see some of the course and the curriculum. Sometimes I do practices with them. And I'm always available to talk about, what it is, because I think sometimes when we get upset or worried or scared, like, what is it that you're doing? The more that we know, the more that there's an open communication and dialogue, the safer, the more comfortable it feels. So knowing that they can ask a question and then I'll answer what it is. And also knowing that mindfulness is about paying attention. And most parents want their kids to pay attention. We tell them all the time, don't we? So practicing that skill of how to pay attention and to make that even stronger in them. So that gets a little bit of buy-in.
So I got to ask you a question, because I know there has probably been a parent that comes in and questions at the very beginning, why are you teaching this? And then as you sit down and you talk to them about it, they're like, oh, I never thought about it like that. Or, oh my, yeah. Oh, okay. Totally, by the time, like you talked about back to school night, by the end, they're like, why don't more schools offer this?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that has come up. I've actually spoken to different schools and talked about the program that we have in the school that I'm in and how to replicate that and bring that other places, because I think it's one of the coolest things about the place that I get to teach in. And one of the coolest things that 7th graders get to leave with is having these skills that are going to support them forever.
Yeah. And then they also have like a little mindfulness refresh at the end. They're like, what kind of tools? I mean, you already said that you do a lot of journaling and everything else, but what other kind of tools do you do with your kids so that they can carry it on with them, like tangible tools? Because I know a lot of parents out there are listening and saying, okay, how can I do mindfulness, but be able to have my kids remember to be mindful? Because a lot of times we get so caught up in our emotions, like you were talking about earlier, that like, should I hit my sister? I'm angry. Should I hit my sister, or should I just do mindfulness? To be able to remember that, hey, there are tools that I have, or maybe something visual or something like that, because I'm a very visual person. So if I have something in front of me that says, okay, take a breath, then I'm going to take a breath.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think a lot of it has to do with practicing that and internalizing it, right? The more that we practice, the more it becomes a part of who we are and how we respond to things. But for visual reminders, I have stickers that say, let the glitter settle on them. And that's something that I have in places. So sometimes I know when I see that, it's a reminder like, hey, I might just need a minute to like let my own glitter settle. I might need a minute to help myself to see a little more clearly. And I give those out to my students too.
And I had a sticker earlier, and I don't know what I did with it, but you did send me a sticker, but you also sent a really cool bookmark too. So I think that's cool. And do you actually do the glitter jars with your students too?
So I do them usually in my club after school. I used to do it all the time in my classroom, but I teach about 400 kids every year now. So that became, that was a lot of glitter glue. So it became a little bit much. But anytime the kids ask, I'll offer like an after school get together and we'll do them. So I often do it for Girl Scout troops and for Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. And all the different scouts will do them, or anytime the kids ask, we'll have a little glitter jar party in my classroom.
Yeah, I'm thinking that'd really be really cool to have like a keychain with the glitter, like a little tiny glitter jar, but having like the little heart keychains or something like that you can pour in and do that. So you have that constant reminder, because everybody's going to have keys somewhere, whether it's keys to their house, keys to their car, keys to their lockers, keys to whatever, everybody's got it. Even if it's a key fob, they still have to put it on a keychain.
I love that. That's a great idea.
That's a marketing idea for you.
Yeah, I love it. It's noted.
So when the kids come back to you and they say, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful, Stefanie, that you did such an amazing job teaching me about mindfulness, because now I don't react like all my other colleagues do at work, or other students when there's a big test coming up in college, or I know that I'm prepared when I go off to college, that I'm going to stress, of course, anything's new, but I better prepare to deal with that stress, because stress is inevitable in our lives, period. But being able to deal with it in a healthy situation, instead of ulcers, overeating, overuse of alcohol or drugs or whatever, instead you're showing them how to manage stress healthily.
Yes. And that's the biggest gift. This is one of those things that we're teaching them how to respond and not react. We're teaching them how to incorporate healthy things into their life so that they're not making poor choices later on, right? How many people who get stuck in unhealthy habits, and it's because they're kind of avoiding something. They're avoiding their feelings. They're avoiding what's happening. When we're practicing mindfulness, it's helping us to put that front and center. Like, this is what's happening in my body right now. These are the feelings that I'm having, and helping you to be present with what's there.
So how did your school decide to start teaching these mindfulness classes? Was it something that you approached the principal with and said, or the head of the school, and said, I really think our students could really benefit from these classes? And then also too, how can other teachers or other people, and even in the workplace, how can they approach their employer or employee or whatever and say, we need to start doing mindfulness, because I think our stress levels will be down 100%.
Yeah, I'm so incredibly blessed and grateful that I have an amazing administrative team in my school. And so I was wanting to practice mindfulness with students. I got permission and asked first, and I was just kind of dabbling. And then I wanted to do this certification. In order to do the certification, you have to film it. It's all this. So I need all this permission. So I got permission that I could do this, permission from the parents. So there was so much support rallied around me. And we worked with our local municipal alliance, and they were supportive of it. So I actually got a grant to start a yoga club separately. That was also part of it. So it was really a community kind of piece that came together, but there was recognition that, this is real. Like, there is stress for our teens, that we need to do something to help support them. And this was a solution towards that. This was one way to help support them and to give them the tools that they need. So I'm really fortunate that I was able to get the certifications, and then also that I was able to bring this into the classroom, and then eventually bring it into the curriculum, so that it got written into the curriculum and became something that is now sustainable, that if I was to leave this school, that it would still be something that's happening there. They would still have access to this.
I love that 100%, because like you said, you never know, a job offer might come up that is your dream job, even though you said you always felt like you should be teaching middle school, but maybe it's teaching mindfulness all around the US to teachers and things like that. You never know. So having that curriculum in place, I think is great. But I do want to talk about for a minute how teachers can practice mindfulness, because we're at the end of the school year for those that go to traditional schools, and teachers are stressed. The kids are stressed out, but the teachers are also stressed out with the end of grade test and all this stuff, because it seems like everything is all about numbers for the people higher up than it is about the actual student, their benchmarks of them achieving their benchmarks, of knowing that they got to work the best they could do, because some kids don't take tests very well.
Right. Absolutely. And teacher stress and student stress at the end of the year, I think it's equally as high. So for teachers, the same practices that I teach for my students are ones that I use. Sometimes I modify them a little bit differently, but knowing yourself and which ones work for you. So I think trying out as many as possible, like do a body scan, see how that works for you. Do you like doing body scans? Doing an anchor breath, like noticing your breath in your body. How does that one feel? Do you like that? Did you like the sound activities? All of the practices that are in my book, you could try those out for yourself and see how that lands with you. I think even for educators, we want to give these tools to our students, but honestly, what's most important is that we use them for ourselves. Because like we talked about with regulation, that our nervous systems are always talking to each other and picking up and feeding off of each other. So as the educator in the classroom, if we can be regulated, if we can be healthy and well, that alone, just that, our nervous system is supporting our students.
And it also helped teachers as far as, because I have a couple of friends that are still teachers, and one of them today was texting me saying that they're ready for these kids to stop getting her sick because it seems like germs are going all around. And instead of the mindfulness of like, yeah, she's done. She's out. She's already ready for school to be out, because she's had, between her and another friend, they've been out like a lot because of sickness, because they're older. But it's just, that mindfulness, I think, would help the stress level, and it would also help us become healthier too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our time is almost up. You have one last thing you want to share before we talk about where people can find you? The floor is yours.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is knowing that you are the most important resource. So if you're a parent, if you are a teacher, if you are a human being with a nervous system, your wellness is the most important. You matter, and that's important for you to take care of yourself. I think oftentimes, as women, as humans, we want to take care of and support all the people around us. But if we don't take care of and honor ourselves first, none of that matters. So I think that's my big takeaway, my big message. If you get nothing else, honor and take care of your nervous system. Practice mindfulness for yourself. Be fully present. Notice the good things when they come up and just really absorb them, be in them, savor them, and enjoy each moment as it comes as much as you can.
And where can people find you at?
So you can go to my website, Stefanielockenauer.com. So you can find free resources there. You can also see I do public speaking. I also do keynotes and presentations. I teach workshops on mindfulness for teens and for adults. And you can also find my book on Amazon. So there is a Kindle version. There's also a paperback book. And the Kindle version is on Kindle Unlimited. So it's usually free if you have Kindle Unlimited. And then I think on May 21st, it will be for free. So even if you don't have unlimited, you can get it for free that day.
Yeah. And I love that. The fact that you can just download it and if you want a paperback version, I'd like to hold the book in your hand, or I would suggest definitely buying the paperback though, because like you said, there's little places where you can take notes and everything else in it, as well as maybe keeping it for yourself so that you can actually use it as a journal. Or if you're a new, I haven't thought about this, but once you do the book for children, what a great baby shower gift that would be to give a new parent, to hand that to them. Or even that for someone who is graduating elementary school into middle school. What a great gift idea it would be for this, because, or even for that matter, just like a summer, like get out of school. Because at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, every year when my girls were going to school, we always had a celebration, the first day and the last day. Like we celebrated, they got to choose where they wanted to go out to dinner the first day of school. And I had little gifts for them. So they had something to look forward to when they got home, because they're like, oh, now we're back in the routine. And at the end, it's like, okay, we're going to do something fun, whether it's, movie night or whatever, it's something that they all look forward to. So I think that's important. That maybe this is something that you can slip in to the end of the year, the beginning of the year, and hey, let's do one thing from this book and say, so we can set ourselves up for the new year.
That is such a beautiful idea. I love that. And it's great when you do these practices together, right? It really helps to build that bond together and grow together.
And also, you have a mindfulness resource that you worked on as well.
So yes. So this is another great free resource. I love free resources, right, as a teacher. So if you type in NJGov, NJDOE and mindfulness, NJDOE and mindfulness, and there are tons of free resources there. There's some videos you can use. There's handouts. So that's another great free resource if you're just getting started, if you're bringing it to your classroom, to your students, or even for yourself.
And Instagram as well. So
yes.
People on our social media.
Yeah. So the Let the Glitter Settle is all about my book. And then NJ Story 2025, that has all different things that I'm doing professionally with my workshops and as well. So if you want to check that out, you can see some of the things I have to say about mindfulness.
So when you do your workshops, are some of them online? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, we're not in anywhere near where we can go see you do your workshop. Do you have workshops online that people can attend as well?
I've done quite a few online. I haven't hosted my own, but I've been hired out to do them online. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing shortly. So if you're interested in that, please stay in touch, follow me, and ask me, because that will get me to do it.
Yes, definitely. Because I think I planted a few little seeds for you today.
You did.
Which, when you're in the mindfulness, you start thinking about, because with the mindfulness series, I just had a few little things I was going to do. And then I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many other things that I started focusing on, like washing dishes, wrapping a present, laughing, just any type of thing that you can be present with and just sit for a moment with. And I was like, I didn't realize it was going to become a whole summer of mindfulness, but it's going to be the summer of mindfulness. So your book just fell, and guys, she booked this back in, I think, December. So I had no idea I was going to do the mindfulness and she just happened to fall right in there. And I'm like, this is like Kismet. It was meant to be.
Yes, it was divine timing.
So Stefanie, thank you so much for coming on. I cannot wait to make a glitter jar, and I'm going to probably make it and film it, and that way I'll tag you in it as well.
Yes, please. I can't wait to see it. I love a good glitter jar.
So thank you so much for coming on and for practicing mindfulness and for giving the kids the tools that they need, because I think our kids are so stressed out by the time they hit high school. By the time they hit kindergarten. Mm-hmm. Now it's not like playtime. Now they have to learn all these skills and they have to have everything perfect, and they have to have all these activities and everything else, and instead letting them just experience being a kid and the curiosity that you talk about. Yes. I think it's important.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, I will put in the show notes everywhere you can find Stefanie, as hopefully I will be filming soon. The glitter jar. I may have a smaller version, but I'm thinking I might pull in a friend to come and do it with me one day. So thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for sharing, Stefanie, this mindfulness, because I think it's very important that we all do this.
Thank you.
So until next time, guys, bye.
This time with me today, it truly means so much. If this chat warmed your heart even just a little, I'd love for you to share it with someone you love. And don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe to Chats from the Blog Cabin, because around here, there's always room for one more at the table.